Most Fridays when sheriff rigs can make it in. Sheriff Fridays, we call it.
I make a valiant effort anyway.
Yeah, you do. Most of the time.
We appreciate it.
And there's times, sometimes things happen.
Well, we like it when you have boring weeks, but you don't have many of those.
There have been some wild and crazy rides, I will tell you that.
How was the Memorial Weekend? Were people decent?
Yes.
Was everything good?
Yeah. We had a good weekend. Just
about normal.
Yeah. We don't like to highlight or say the Q word too often, but it's like bad juju when you get to a certain point in your career. You just don't say that word anymore. But
I on one of the social medias, but the state has where people got a DWI or a driving under the influence stop. So it was like 4 clicks later, I was finally to the map, and I was guessing on oh, maybe that's the link. I finally got to it. It actually shows where they were pulled over.
Sure. I didn't even know that existed.
I didn't either.
We keep track of it, but I didn't know that the state did.
And I was like, well, how? Yeah, whatever. It just said downtown Bemidji. If they pulled off, I see the strip from downtown to BSU, where then the person pulled over into that parking lot that's now full of dirt and all that.
Is that by the glass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many calls have you gotten about that?
Oh, not as the sheriff, but I've had plenty of people ask me that question. BSU is in all this financial trouble. What's going on with, what are they building?
Isn't that amazing how people just immediately think?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it was a grant, right?
It was. Parts of BSU didn't even know what that project was.
Sure.
They, a year or so ago, put a native grass garden and area right next to the marquee.
Yep.
Not retaining enough water, evidently. So they're digging a giant hole, filling it with crushed rock, and going to divert that water over to the native grass garden.
Sure.
All grant money.
Yeah.
BSU's not paying for any of this.
Right. Well, just have to deal with what's going on.
I don't know if it's a state grant or a federal grant, but we're all paying for it. But
yeah.
It's a big hole.
Government funded. No, that's not how that works.
Seriously, how many calls did you get about the gas leak earlier this week? And what sorts of things did the sheriff and you guys have to interact with the police and the fire department and everybody else?
Yeah, we have a pretty good response as far as, the working with the fire department, working with the police department. I mean, resources are so thin, so we know each other on a pretty, I hate to say the word intimate, but we work with each other every day. And so those things are just seamless. It seems like, obviously potentially dangerous situation. And it just, we are truly I'm just in awe. Previous sheriffs would tell us, you guys are doing great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, you're just blowing sunshine, whatever. But I'm I stand back and I marvel at the resources that we have in this community and the training that we get and the actual commitment from folks for public safety. It's amazing. Fire, police, EMS. I mean, we all work really well together, and it's one of those things where you as a citizen that lives in this county, or even if you're not a resident of the county and you do your business in Bemidji, people don't realize this, but our population doesn't reflect our actual size. I've heard estimates of 100,000 people on a daily basis in the economic area here. You know what I mean? So 15,000 doesn't do it justice as far as the city of Bemidji goes, right?
Just the city.
Yeah, just the city. So when folks are doing their business in town, or you live in town and you have these kind of resources available, I'm actually very proud to be a part of that. So.
Yeah, because you don't get budget based on that 100.
No.
But you got to look out for them.
No, we do not. We do, the local option sales tax for funding the jail the 0.5% that funds county highway, that that is Beltrami County wide. So like,
sure,
if you're a Hubbard County resident, Itasca, Cass, whatever, and you're spending money in Beltrami County, that's taxable. We are benefiting from that.
I did rubberneck over there the other day.
Why am I not surprised
Well,
at
you
that?
got to drive by construction sites, especially in jail. How many? My question was like, is there already people asking you questions about what's going on over there? I saw a dirt mound.
I haven't. I get asked every day. Have you guys started construction yet? Yeah, go check it out. Like almost all of the footings are poured. I think they're finishing up the third building, or they're all attached, but they're like the third heavy structure. They're finishing up the footings on that. They're going to start bringing in precast walls here in July. So I mean, by the end of July, first part of August, this is going to start to look like a building. So, and we've been
cool.
We've been doing some drone training, and incorporating that training. We've been also doing like overhead still images of the site. So on a weekly basis. So we're going to see we're going to put out some.
You're going to do a time lapse?
Yeah, time lapse
cool.
transformation. Yeah. So it's
everybody loves those. You ever met anybody that doesn't like a time lapse? No.
Not unless it's like an hour long.
So one thing we can all agree on that we like good old time lapse.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Because I think jails are popular because Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz? I mean, he does.
I'm not going there.
I guarantee you, if the Minnesota Department of Corrections was involved in that decision, that would never happen.
So everything's going on as supposed to over there at the site?
Yep. Everything is tracking great. Design and Operations Committee has been meeting regularly still. That's about the only committee that still meets on a regular basis, because they have updates from different contractors, and the differences in like how things are coming together. It's such an orchestra. I can't imagine, I built my own house.
Dang.
I had some help, but don't get me wrong, I didn't pour my own concrete. I had a local help me with the concrete. I had a local carpenter pay me to help him frame my house. But most of the finish work and that kind of stuff, electrical, I did. My wife and I, and actually all of our kids participated in that. But it's like, you got to do this before you do that, and if you do this before you do that, then you got to tear stuff apart. And I can't imagine what that's like on that level.
Right.
$160,000 home when we built it versus $60-some million.
Right.
And the technology that's going to be in there. One of the things I don't know that we've ever really talked about was we're actually going to have certain medical cells that will be able to monitor respiration and heart rate.
Oh, really? I've
yes.
heard about that.
Yeah. So Itasca County has a few cells like that. And just think about that from a perspective of, so you have an inmate that comes in who is maybe withdrawing from some alcohol or narcotic. You would have the ability. We still have to do the physical checks, but those checks are 15 minutes apart on a medical. You have that ability in place to see and monitor those folks, and if respirations or heart rate drops below a certain rate, there are an alarm sounds, and we can actually, be that much quicker to assist people.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's really, really awesome as far as
it really is
that
cool
capability.
technology.
Is that mandated from Department of Corrections?
It is not.
Will be eventually.
I would imagine at some point it will be. I think Mark is absolutely right. I don't know, I got to imagine, when you're, at 52, I've spent a couple of nights in the hospital for some things, and you're always hooked up to some monitor, and things are always beeping and buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all, we'll just call it analog. It's probably not the right term, but technology, when you think about things, everything nowadays is, wireless,
Bluetooth.
but
You should, just for fun, you should roll into the construction site with the lights blaring, sound, siren going, right? Lights, sound. Get out. Just ask what's going on. That would really get their attention. And then say, we're just practicing.
Sheriff, please never let him behind the wheel of a squad car.
I will tell you this. I've been on site every week that we've started construction, but I've been out there a couple of times where I drive out there with I don't have a marked vehicle, but they see me coming and everybody kind of just, the foreman and everybody kind of stops what they're doing. They walk over and say, hey, everything okay? Yep, I'm just here to check stuff out.
You have your own hard hat?
I will.
Yeah?
Yeah. I have my own anyway, but I'll probably do something fun. I'll buy my own hard hat and I'll make it fun. So.
I have a Green Bay Packer one if you'd like to borrow it.
Ooh.
I probably wouldn't go so well.
I'm not much of a football fan, let alone a Packer fan, but
It is what it is.
maybe the Wild.
This is going to be a convoluted way to get to a question, so I apologize. Mayor's been in talking about city standpoint of the city of Northern Township's
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
Northern Township was just in yesterday. I would assume that those conversations haven't yet started, but I would guess that from the get-go, if they do incorporate, that you would be contracted for services at least to start until they can start a police department if they want one.
Those services actually have happened, or I should say those talks have actually happened.
How many counties or how many entities in the county do you guys contract their police services for?
None. The city of Black Duck has their own police department. There was a time between police chiefs. It's very difficult to hire law enforcement in general right now. Police chiefs are no different.
Sure.
And you're also talking about a community that can't support a wage that's competitive with another area for a police chief, right? Vastly differences between what the police chief in Black Duck makes versus what the city of Bemidji police chief, and it should be, because we're talking way different issues, way different population, that kind of stuff. Kelly at one time did contract with Beltrami County. This was probably 25 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that. It didn't last very long just because of city couldn't support the wage. There was some disagreements over time spent in the community, and this is all before I was ever even with the sheriff's office, so I don't have all of the details of that. There are requirements with the state that if you're a city of a certain size, you have to have police services, and I don't know what that magic number. I want to say it's like 5,000 people. Many municipalities choose to have their own police department, like the city of Black Duck. It's roughly, we'll just say 900 people to be generous, and then they have probably an economic population also of twice that, maybe, as it pertains to their their daily work and whatnot. And the school, obviously, there's lots of kids at the school. But when I was approached by Chris Lon and Jess Frenzel, it was, hey, what would this look like? What would we have to do? And we kind of looked at their population. They have I think their population's somewhere in the 3,700s or somewhere roughly around that. That population swells in the summertime because of a lot of the lake homes on Bemidji. But it doesn't quite reach that 5,000 mark. We currently, as the sheriff's office, provide service to all townships in.
Well, you're the county sheriff.
Exactly. If they incorporate and their size gets to a point where they're required to have a police department, they may choose to contract with us. We're kind of like, they were asking just obviously for some numbers, and we're like, well, it's all going to depend on what kind of services do you want. Do you want 24-hour coverage? Do you want 12-hour coverage? Because if I have to staff it with people 24/7, it's going to look a lot more expensive than if we don't.
But then your call center covers that. anyway already.
Correct. Yeah. And right now we have a contract with the city of Bemidji for we deal with their records management. So if we do all the crime data reporting, they pay for records personnel. We pay for records personnel. We share that burden together, that cost. Dispatch is a little similar. They pay for a couple of dispatchers. We pay for the rest. If another entity wanted to come in and have a police force or contracted services, until some significant infrastructure change, I wouldn't imagine that the call volume would change much, just because it's the same township, right? It's not, but you start bringing in a bunch of low-income housing, or you start bringing in businesses that they want to build their own. Not that this would happen, but they want to build their own Walmart. Well, now we're upping. We're probably upping our call volume, because you've got you'll have retail theft, Dollar General. That they've built that up there. We see a little bit of that up there, but it all kind of depends on how things go. As of right now,
I'm sorry, it's pretty sad if you're shoplifting from a dollar store.
Well, even the dollar stores now are like the $1.75 store or whatever they are. But
it's $5 store.
Yeah. If we've had those conversations, we've kind of we haven't gotten into really significant depth with them yet, just because we don't know what's going to happen, and there's no point until we get to a point where it's going to be a yay. But services are currently provided to Northern Township by the sheriff's office, and I don't see that that's going to change. Even if they did contract police services, they would still get county deputy coverage, because they're
in the county.
They're in the county, so
it's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. You got anything fun to do this weekend?
Guys my size suffer in the heat and humidity, so I'm hoping for a...
Yeah, the air quality, is it better, higher, or lower?
I don't know. No trees. I'm thankfully on the ground this week. Might do some camping. We'll see, but...
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good weekend.
Yeah, you guys as well.
Thanks for